Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Perpetual Chess. We are joined by one of the pod's bestest friends, especially this year. His third appearance this year, a couple quicker hits, and this time we're back for a long-form interview. He's a popular commentator, YouTuber, Twitch streamer, Chessable author. His new course, Starting Out in the Nimzo-Indian, is a newer player's guide to one of the most dynamic, principled, evergreen defenses to 1d4. We will be discussing it in due time. Thanks, as always, to Chessable for helping to support Perpetual Chess. And if you do sign up for their services, especially their pro membership, be sure to use the link in the description. But we'll be getting into Ben's course. But we've got a lot of news to catch up on. As regular listeners know, I record these often 10 days to 2 weeks in advance. We're recording this one 8 days in advance on October 28th. This will be out on November 5th. And crazy stuff keeps happening, and it's time to catch up on it all. So we'll get into all the drama of it all. But first, I thought we might want to spotlight human achievement, if briefly. So Ben, I know you're a big Carissa Yep fan. You predicted her victory. Let's give her some flowers. Why did her victory in the U.S. Championship and run at Fischer's record of going undefeated, why didn't that surprise you? And also, welcome, Ben.
Thank you. Thanks for welcoming. Yeah, last year, I remember saying after like round one, I said Carissa's the favorite, and the dark horse would be... no, there's no dark horse. Carissa's going to win.
Right.
That's what I said last year. And this year, I jokingly said after round one that they're going to cancel the tournament and declare Carissa the winner. I just think that she has a more complete game than the other players. She's stronger. She's more confident. She plays more aggressively. And she racks up the points in the tournament. And of course, and her ending of the tournament reminded me of something that happened to me. When I got my last GM norm at Texas Tech, one of Susan Polgar's tournaments, I got my norm with a round to go. So I needed 6 out of 9, and I had 6 out of 8. And the last round I played Eugene Perelstein, and I didn't play well, and I lost. And then people were like, yeah, you can't play after you've already won. Like, you got your GM title. Like, we played in the last round 4. What does that matter? So, like, obviously, I think it matters, but there's another part of me that's deep inside of me that I can't control that knows that the game doesn't matter. So I ended up tying for first instead of getting clear first. And I felt like I hadn't played my best game. And I was thinking about Carissa when she was 8-0. Like, yeah, the tournament's over. And she wants to go 11-0, but you're playing in a chess tournament. You're trying to win first place. You've won first place with 3 rounds to go, basically. It's hard to keep winning. So it makes it even more incredible what Fischer did, that he would be 8-0, 9-0, 10-0, and still fighting really hard to win every game.
Yeah, and did it
when the tournament's over.
Yeah, and famously did it in the U.S. Championship, for which Sinkfeld, of course, has established this Fischer Prize, where if you go 11-0, you get an extra $64,000. Obviously, good motivation, but still tough to do. But then Fischer to even do it in the candidates, where he's like whitewashing these other, top
like
20 players.
4-0, 5-0, you take a couple of draws and you win.
Yeah,
it's weird to just keep winning.
Yeah, but famously beating Taimanov in 6-0, and then crushed Larson as well. But so Carissa's not quite there yet, but she came close to winning this $64,000 bonus prize. And then, of course, there's also Rex Sinkfeld and his wife have famously offered $100,000 to an American woman player who makes GM.
Right.
I'm guessing, based on your longtime Carissa fandom, that you think this is doable for her?
Oh, for sure. I think Carissa's a lock, and I think Alice Lee's a lock also.
Okay.
I don't see any more locks, but there's possibilities. And I think it's not just for an American woman GM. I think it goes on. So, like, it's not like Carissa becomes a GM, then the prize is over. I think they just keep giving it to American women who become GMs.
Yeah. It's not a one-time thing.
Like 100 American women become GMs, that's $100,000 times 100, which is kind of math I can't do on this kind of show. It's definitely not 10 million.
You can do it. Yeah, it might be wrong, but you can do it.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly.
That would be something. Sinkfeld might even feel that. The $10 million. He might notice that's gone.
There's a Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns is on trial And he says, they offer him some bail of like $5 million. And he says, Smithers, take it out of my back pocket. And I want to buy that Statue of Justice too. And the judge says, sold, and bangs his gavel.
Right.
Like he's and I mean, when Rex offers $100,000 for a woman to become a grandmaster, take it out of his back pocket.
Yeah.
So it's different than me and you, of course. We take it out of all of our pockets, and then we beg our wives to get more money.
Exactly.
But yeah, in this instance, and Jeannie likes to joke that when Rex retired and he said his hobby was chess, she says, how much could that cost? So,
right.
And then whenever there's a prize ceremony, the kids are there because they're filming. His kids are filmmakers. And he says, and she always says, this is where your inheritance has gone to the kids.
Right.
So,
yeah.
We get no money, but we get a lot of good chess.
I think they'll be okay as well. But yeah,
that's correct.
Yeah, it's a funny story. All right. Well, enough human achievement. Although I suppose we should give a shout out to Fabiano as well. And obviously for winning the Open and the US Championship fairly comfortably, even though he was deprived of a win against Christopher Yoo. We'll be returning to that topic. But but as we were...
What's funny about this, by the way, which nobody knows because nobody thought of it, is that Fabi won by a bigger score compared to second place than Carissa did.
So the biggest story, I mean, there's been so many lately. Most of them, as you've alluded to in your own YouTube videos, unfortunately not good news for chess. And the biggest one, certainly not. The Vladimir Kramnik's accusations, obviously he's accused a lot of people of online cheating over the years. And most recently, he's turned his attention to Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky. And I felt like this story was just going to kind of go away, but it seems to be escalating. And
the opposite.
Yeah. And today, so Danya and Kramnik did a podcast in Russian together on the Levitov channel. And then as we record this just last night, Danya did a long interview with Christian Kirill and Fabiano on C Squared. Meanwhile, Kramnik's coming out with video after video. And every time, Danya looks away from his screen, he calls it a smoking gun. So what do you think of this all, Ben?
Well, I've been saying for quite a long time that, Kramnik seems like he's ill or something because he spends all of his time in his life accusing other people of cheating and making videos about it. And if it was true, which it is not, that everybody was cheating, I wouldn't make, 5 videos per day on each person cheating and how they're cheating. That's not my job. So he's not like making money and getting paid by somebody to find cheaters. He's just doing it on his own. And he doesn't really have any methods that make any sense. It's just sort of like how he feels. So he's just like the crazy old man, meme. He's just like yelling at a cloud. And by accusing everybody of cheating, this is like, when they said everybody was a communist, and eventually the president was accused of being a communist, and then that was the end of that. And I was thinking, this is going to go the same way. He's going to accuse, this is what I thought months ago, he's going to accuse Hikaru or Magnus of cheating, and then people are going to be like, okay, Vlad, go sit in the corner somewhere. And what's funny is, he sort of did allude to the fact that Hikaru's results don't make any sense, and we must investigate. And I thought that would be the end of Kramnik, because when you're accusing people of cheating who aren't cheating, who've been the best in the world for years, people start to realize that your accusations are nonsensical. But he still has his backers, sort of like in American politics. People make crazy, wild accusations that have no truth to them, and 40% of people believe it. So even though Kramnik accuses everybody and has no evidence, people are like, ooh, Kramnik knows what he's talking about. He was the world champion. And I'm like, he knows what he's talking about if he analyzes a chess game, as long as he's not one of the participants and he thinks he's winning. But here he's just accusing everybody of cheating because he doesn't like, I don't know what he doesn't like. He thinks everybody's cheating. So there's something wrong with Kramnik. And certain people like Naroditsky and Hikaru and Magnus, and I could go on, they're not cheating. And no matter how many times he yells at the sky and shakes his fist, they're still not cheating. And to accuse everybody of cheating, and then people are like, oh, Kramnik was right because we caught one cheater out of the 1,000 guys that he accused. That's not how math works. But so it's. I thought, like you, that it would just die down at some point, and it seems like it gets stronger and stronger, and people, a lot of them are convinced that Kramnik is right, and we have to back Kramnik. Everybody's cheating in chess, and he's the only one trying to stop it. And it's basically the opposite. Not everybody is cheating, but everybody plays chess. So if you have 1 million people playing chess and 1,000 people are cheating, that's very, very, very small percentage. But in Kramnik's world, if 10 of them are cheating, then everybody's cheating.
Yeah.
Like if Kramnik found 10 people cheating out of millions, he would think he's done something to correct a big, a big thing in the world that doesn't really matter very much. And by accusing so many people falsely of cheating, like Naroditsky, it makes him look bad also.
Yeah. One thing I would add, and this is something Eric Albus has said, and Danya, I think, said it on C-Squared as well, it's fine to suspect people. It's human nature. What's not fine is sort of the public character assassination. It's just not fair to Danya.
Right.
Now, I do want to ask you, Ben, about some of the specific allegations. Again, I don't even know if we should, I've been trying to ignore this story, but it persists. Kramnik is showing these videos of the Danya's bookshelf has a glass pane, and he's showing the reflections of the bookshelf and showing a chessboard that isn't on the screen. Did you see any of these clips of the specific accusations?
Luckily, no.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, but I used to get these accusations when I play blindfold chess. So, jokingly, if I played blindfold chess and there were kids around, they thought this was some kind of magic. So they would be like, oh, you're looking at the ceiling and there's a mirror there and there's a chessboard there and that person's signaling you. That's why you're making legal moves. And I'm like, what? But this is what it sounds like with the Kramnik accusations is something crazy is happening, which we can't explain. So let's make 5 videos a day explaining it.
Yeah.
And it's just, Danya plays good blitz chess.
Yeah.
By the way, there's a guy you've heard of named Ronen Harzvi, American-Israeli grandmaster, and played him blitz chess, and he was beating me. He'd already retired from slow chess. And he was always telling me how good he was at blitz chess. He liked to brag about he was a great blitz player. Anyway, one day he came up to me and he said, oh, I just played blitz with Naroditsky. I guess I'm not a good blitz player. And he meant live.
Right.
He played him over the board and Naroditsky won every game.
Yeah.
Even though Naroditsky was 80 points higher rated. He got something 14-0.
Yeah. When
and he was like, man, Naroditsky's good at blitz. I just thought that I was.
Yeah. When was this?
Oh, this is maybe 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah, so Naroditsky's like a child then, too.
Right, yeah, Naroditsky wasn't as good then as he is now.
Yeah.
But it's funny because Harzvi was crushing me in blitz, and then Naroditsky crushed him in blitz and made him think differently about how good he was at blitz.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say is, I don't know about you, Ben, but I'm not going to say I'm 100% sure that Danya has not cheated. You never know for 100%, but that doesn't justify the public character assassination that's taken place. Do you think there's some chance, there's some world where Kramnik's right about everything?
No, I don't want to live in that world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually compare, since the election is today, as far as viewers know, I actually compare Kramnik to Trump. Just says a lot of nonsense. And occasionally, if you say 1,000 things, one of them is going to be true, even by happenstance. And then people are like, no, Trump's right and Kramnik's right. And, Shevchenko, look at him. So Kramnik's right about everything. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So that's not how life works. You can't just say 1,000 things, and when one of them's true, now you're right all of a sudden. And this also reminds me of Sam Sloan. It's funny, when my brother's an attorney, and when Sam Sloan would file court filings, he would say, like, this is wrong and this is wrong and I want this. Then he would throw in some crazy nonsense like, I also want the court to declare Bobby Fischer's the world champion. And then when the judges would look at this, they're like, well, these seem like reasonable and maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. Then he just throws in this nonsense, like just saying, like, the judges will declare Bobby Fischer the world champion. And they're like, what? Okay, case dismissed because you're crazy. And that's what these guys do, is they just say a lot of nonsense. And if one of them turns out right, people are like, hey, they were right.
Yeah.
People aren't figuring out that if you say everybody's cheating and one person's cheating, that's not everybody. Yeah, I think there's no world where Naroditsky's cheating. There's no world where Magnus is cheating. There's no world where Hikaru's cheating. And out of those three people, Kramnik's accused two of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
I mean, playing devil's advocate, one would say, okay, but Danya's 26-20 FIDE and, top 5, top 10 blitz player in the world. And the other people you mentioned, Magnus and Hikaru, are obviously among the greatest players of all time.
An even crazier example than Danya, because I mentioned this on my stream, is Andrew Tang.
Yeah.
Andrew Tang at Hyper Bullet and Bullet is top 10 in the world. And his FIDE rating is like barely higher than mine. I mean, like he's not even in Danya's level in slow chess. When he plays in the US Junior, he gets like 50%. But then when he plays Hyper Bullet and Bullet, okay, then you're like, all right, he's the favorite against Magnus maybe. So there are people who are better at different forms of chess, especially when you compare online chess to over-the-board chess. And I think Danya is not only better at blitz and bullet than he is at slow chess. I think he's better online than over the board. And that happens to a lot of people. That's not something that's going to happen to Kramnik. Kramnik spent 90% of his life playing chess over the board. So he's not going to be an online wizard, especially when at the beginning of his online career, Kramnik didn't pre-move. He was like, oh, pre-move, that's stupid.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Right.
I mean, so you can't really trust what he's saying when he says something so silly.
Yeah. And obviously people like Danya and Andrew Tang's, like their ability at the hyper bullet at the fastest time controls, like it lends credence to why they're so good at blitz. I mean, obviously the more time you add, the more their edge diminishes, but their edge in those super fast games that favor the young is understandable. And you mentioned the Shevchenko story a couple times, Ben. Already discussed it a bit in the episode that's coming out tomorrow that some listeners will have heard with Peter Doggers. But it's another, obviously, topic in the news. I think we discussed this at some point, but can you tell the story of when you played OTB? Have there been times you've been suspicious of your opponents?
Yeah, there's a couple of American players that I believe have been cheating. And I've never said their names publicly, although I did tell Matt Larson in a text, I suspected this guy, and I showed him a couple of games, and I showed him some results he had, and he was like, yeah, that guy's cheating.
Oh, wow.
So Matt agreed with me. And what happens is there are some players who play in tournaments and do incredibly well. They're gaining 30, 40, 50 FIDE points. Then the next tournament they play in, they draw with Class A players and experts and withdraw. And I'm like, how can somebody who's young and talented, who's a young GM or I am, who's beating 2,500 FIDEs and gaining rating points, how come their next tournament, they can't beat anybody and they withdraw? Like, what happened? Because usually that would happen to somebody like me. I'm old, I can't play anymore.
Right.
And so I have a good result occasionally. And then I have my usual result where I just lose to everybody. But when somebody's an up and coming player and they're getting better and they're getting norms and they're getting titles, it's weird for somebody who's in their teens or early 20s to all of a sudden just play terrible. And there are people that I suspect of cheating, but I don't go out and say these people are cheating unless they've cheated against me and I have proof. And there was one player in particular online who was cheating that I made a big stink about, and I got yelled at a lot by everybody. And then later he admitted he was cheating. It's a well-known story, but I still won't say his name.
When did this happen?
This is like 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, he's an IM, and he was killing it. He was beating everybody every game in online tournaments, Rapid and such. And I knew him in real life, and he even qualified for the U.S. Championship on an online tournament, even though he's like 2,400 USCF. And so people suspected then, but then later he decided he was going to win every game forever. That's not how you cheat. If you're going to cheat and not get caught, you don't go 10-0 against 2,600 FIDEs. It's not the way to do it. But some people can't help themselves, so they have to win every game and get caught. But there's people cheating we don't know about because they do a good job. They try not to get caught. They don't cheat every game. They don't cheat every move. They cheat very little, and maybe it gives them an extra 100 rating points, but not an extra 1,000 rating points with some people. And by the way, I want to point out, which I have pointed out on my stream, when people cheat and they get caught, the gawking rabble always says to me, "That's terrible. That guy was 2650 FIDE. He had he had chess in his hands. He was a professional. He could have done this and that." And I'm thinking, maybe the guy's 2,000 strength. He's been cheating for 5 years. Like, I don't know. I don't know if the guy's 2650 FIDE. Maybe he's not good. And maybe the last 4 or 5 years, 90% of his results have been because he's cheating, and he just got caught now. Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
So when people actually do cheat, you can question, like, are they anywhere as near as good as their current rating? Or have they been cheating for years? And we don't know.
Yeah, the Rouses thing went on for years.
Right. And this happens in bridge where people who are already really good and known to be really good all of a sudden start cheating because they want to keep their results up, and they get caught. And in bridge, it seems typical that if some top player is cheating, they are a top player, but they want to be a better top player, as opposed to they're not good at bridge and they're cheating and now they're really good. It's hard to do that in bridge. It's hard to be a bad bridge player and then be world class by cheating, because even cheating is not going to give you the world class if you're not good enough already. But in chess, it will. Like, if you started cheating tomorrow, Ben, okay, I'm betting on you against Magnus if you cheat every move. I mean,
will you vouch for me though that I'm not?
Oh yeah,
that
I'm not
cheating.
Never cheated.
Okay,
oh, yeah,
that's what I'm going to need.
You just played perfectly against Magnus and beat him.
All of a sudden,
it was luck.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, if a chess player starts cheating and doesn't get caught, they could be 26, 27, 2,800 FIDE. Hey, you got Magnus on your mug there. That's good timing.
Exactly. I'll show it for the camera.
That's your preparation for beating Magnus.
Exactly. And let me ask you, following up on bridge, because I played a few times, but I don't know what that was. Is this OTT, over the table bridge cheating you're talking about?
Yeah, over the table. There's been big scandals every 5 or 10 years of cheating.
Huh.
And they're shocking because the players are good.
Yeah, and what's the mechanism? Signaling or?
Oh, there's all kinds of mechanisms. Signaling is one of them.
Anal plugs? What?
No, not that. There was a Canadian player who was one of the 5 best players in Canada forever, and the way he was cheating was very funny. Like, I got to give the guy credit. He would go up to the boards and look at them and put them back.
Huh.
Like, the hands are already played and then they're moved to another table.
Right.
He would go to the hands that are played, and when nobody was looking, he would look at the cards.
Oh, wow.
And then put them back. And I'm like, wow. And then somebody saw him do it.
Yeah, it's not so subtle.
And then he confessed he's been doing that for 6 months.
Wow.
So, like, he was all his titles were taken away and so forth. But usually the cheating is signaling, and sometimes it's table talk, and they put screens up now because of things that happened 30, 40, 50 years ago. A tale of an accusation, story of an accusation, when the Italians were all cheating in the 60s and 70s. And they started putting screens up and boards so people couldn't kick each other or signal each other. And there's well, there's a lot written about it. But recently, in the last like 10, 15 years, there was a cheating scandal also. And I played a lot of bridge, and a lot of it was too complicated for me. I didn't really understand what they were doing. But other top players said, yeah, obviously it's cheating what they're doing. And I was like, wow.
Now, on the topic of bridge, it's piqued my interest because I've heard that adult improvement at bridge is more feasible than chess, less challenging. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I agree with that. And the reason is, in my opinion, and I made this comparison before, I compare playing bridge to playing blitz chess. So if you're like Karpov and you're playing a 4.5-hour chess game 7 days in a row, and you're 70 years old, you're not going to have a good result. But if Karpov plays a blitz tournament and plays 7 blitz games in 3 hours, he can still play well. It's possible. And bridge is like this. Bridge, every hand is like a blitz game. The hand takes 5 to 10 minutes, and you don't have to sit there for 3 hours and go over everything and then make a bridge play and hope that all of your thinking worked. A lot of it is just based on what you've done before in your experience.
So intuition more than calculation.
Yeah, and a lot of the top bridge players in the world are still older.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like Warren.
They were top and they didn't really get much worse. Bidding systems have improved and changed, but the way you play the cards basically stays the same over a period of years.
Yeah. I'm thinking about all kinds of other games that would probably divert this podcast too far. So I'll
yeah, there's cheating in Scrabble too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
there's cheating everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. And
we did a Kramnik and Scrabble bridge. Every game, Kramnik's gonna say you're all cheating.
Yeah. Okay, well, we got a Patreon question from our mutual friend, Chris Wainscott, who we, of course, both saw at the National Open in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And he says, and thanks for helping to support Perpetual Chess, Chris. And he asks, what do you think is the bigger problem, OTB cheating or the fear of OTB cheating?
Probably the fear's worse. Because there is OTB cheating, but again, it's a very small percentage. Because there's millions of chess games being played, and there's like a few cheaters. And a lot of times they get caught. We don't know who hasn't been caught, but you have a good idea when somebody's 1,100 and then like within a year they're 2,200. Like those people get investigated by Kramnik wannabes. And the fear of cheating and thinking everybody is cheating is actually a worse problem. People believing Kramnik is worse than if Kramnik's right and everybody's cheating. Like everybody's like, oh, Kramnik was a good chess player, so all that crazy stuff he says is true. So I believe it. So everybody's cheating. We have to get rid of this. Rawr. And it's like politics. It's like, Kamala wants open borders. She never said that, but I'm one of the few people in the U.S. who likes open borders, but that's a different question. But lying about what somebody wants and then making it sound bad is very similar to me, the cheating scandals. Like everybody's cheating and I'm right, and we have to stop it somehow. And the one entity that's trying to stop it, chess.com, does a really bad job. So it's up to Kramnik to fix it. And it's not a problem like he says it is. He doesn't understand how to tackle the problem. And when chess.com throws you out, that's because you cheated. Not because, he might have cheated, let's throw him out. And so if I play somebody and I think they cheated, it doesn't mean chess.com is going to ban them because they want to be between like 97 and 100% sure they cheated. Not like, he probably cheated, let's throw him out. They don't want to throw innocent people out. So there's a high standard of, assessing somebody a cheater, calling them a cheater, ruining their life. And actually they did cheat. And Kramnik doesn't see the distinction. He's like, if we investigate people and I accuse them of cheating, that's fine. If they didn't cheat, we'll just say they didn't cheat later. And that's not how the real world works.
Yeah.
The fear's worse.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, although I do think it's OTB cheating, I think it's a big issue. It's tough to police. not as tough as online, but tough nonetheless. So one other incident, and this one, I don't know what there is to say about it, but did want to acknowledge it at least briefly. The unfortunate story of Christopher Yoo hitting a photographer in the back of the head. And of course, subsequent to the event and to mentioning it last week with Peter Doggers, like Christopher Yoo's dad wrote a heartfelt apology, as did Christopher Yoo. It seems like they're trying to move forward. I know you did a couple short videos on your YouTube channel, but I'm guessing you know Christopher. You played him back when he even 10 years ago, right?
I don't remember talking to him in person. Let me make some corrections. There was a videographer.
Okay.
And I was told after I made 2 videos that my videos were wrong, so I made a 3rd video, that he didn't hit the person in the back of the head. He hit him in the back.
Okay.
So I want to make that correction since I falsely put that out there for a while. I corrected it the same day, of course. But yeah, people get mad. And again, at the risk of saying this every 10 seconds, there's millions of chess players and there's millions of chess games. So this was a one-off incident that I've never heard of before, where, you know, a player is attacking somebody because they're mad about the result. It's not normal behavior. And it's not something that you expect to happen again, even from this player, if they continue to play chess or are allowed to. But yeah, people get mad. They react in different ways, and he reacted in a very bad way. And as a consequence, the police got involved. So he was charged, and he's going to go to juvenile court and so forth.
Yeah.
But yeah, this doesn't really speak ill of any particular kind of chess thing. It's just an individual, personal thing that happened to him. He reacted badly and broke the law, and he'll be punished. And he's been punished.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a reminder just how hard this game is, how tough losing is. Did you used to get upset when you would lose?
Yeah, I got upset. And my son was the worst. When he was a kid, he would often want to withdraw from the tournament or do violent things that were just him, like punching something like a stone wall and hurting his fist. So some people get more angry when they lose in a way that they don't like. You know, like if you lost to Magnus, you'd be like, oh, well, I lost to Magnus. But, you know, if you were a queen up and you had mate in 1 and you were about to mate him and it's the greatest victory of your career and then your flag falls, you might be more upset than if he just crushed you. So, you know, you wouldn't like go hitting people. Oh, maybe you would. I don't know. But, you know, you don't do that in polite society. And some people have their own personal issues, and these things can be shown at tournaments that people are more happy or more upset than they should be when they win or lose a chess game. And the more competitive you are, you know, the crazier you are at your result of the game. And this has been shown many times in Kasparov games where he's won or lost. I like the story where he lost, so he locked the Skittles room so nobody could come in. And then the organizers took the hinges off the door so there was no more door. So people could come in and analyze their games.
I hadn't heard that one. And
yeah, the truth, that's a game he lost to Yusupov in a King's Indian.
Okay.
Where Kasparov sacked the exchange and had a great position, and then it all floundered and he lost. So he was not happy.
And when your son was struggling with managing his emotions after tough losses or just losses, and just generally, do you have advice for people who do struggle to control their impulses after a long tough
Well, for
loss?
some people, you should stop playing competitive chess because you shouldn't. And in fact, a friend of mine, 2300, who hasn't played a tournament in like 40 years, he told me, he said, yeah, I stopped playing competitive chess when I stopped liking who I was.
Right.
Because he would become like a monster, like during the game and after the game. And he's like, I don't want that to be me. So I'm just not going to play anymore. Like he was so competitive and he was very good that he would get more upset than he thought he should. And he didn't want to be like that. So some people, you just can't compete at the top level because your emotions get too much for you. But again, you have to realize you're playing a game and the game's over and you'll play another game soon. So when I talk to my students, I tell them not to have a fear of losing. Losing is something that happens.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good you are. Doesn't matter how strong you get. If you reach your chess goals, you're still going to lose all the time. That's what happens. And you'll feel worse about it. Probably if you lost to a 2300, you don't feel as bad as if Magnus loses to a 2300. I mean, it's not like I got better at chess, now everything's great. Now when you lose, it's even worse. So there's no escape from feeling bad when you lose. If you can't handle it, you can stop playing, but you just have to realize if you do anything that's competitive, you can lose. And I think of my students who I have one in particular who is embarrassed when they lose or when they play bad. And I was thinking, man, these guys go to the World Series and they're the best players in the world. And right now the Yankees lost both games.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're a better baseball player if you're a Yankee than if you're like one of us. But billions of people see them lose every day. But that doesn't affect oh no, I'm the worst. You can't think like that. You're the best. You're competing at the highest level. And so you can lose. And when you get better at chess, you just play people who are better. So losing never stops. The world champions lose all the time. In fact, current world champion seems to only lose. So if the world champion is just losing every game, what chance do we have? So you can't feel bad about losing. It's just something that happens. And a lot of people take it personally when they feel like they were winning or completely winning or much better, and then they lose, which I think was the case with Christopher Yoo. I think he thought he was going to win or had a great position. And then when he lost, since he wasn't having a great tournament to start anyway, it all fell apart at that point.
Yeah. And his dad did mention that he'll be seeking professional help, which I commend and obviously hope he turns it around. He's hugely talented, nice kid who I interviewed a long time ago. And obviously thoughts go to the victim as well. I hope she's okay. I don't know the nature of the assault. I don't know how serious it is, but obviously she didn't deserve it, to say the least. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, and I just interviewed Charles Hertan. I know you're a big fan of Morphy. Seeing his the way he unraveled in the second half of his life, as Charles documents in his great book. I mean, it just shows just how hard. And you never know if chess is the cause or just a coincidence, or a cause, I guess.
I mean, I haven't seen
the cause.
Charles Hertan since before you were born.
I didn't know how strong he was, as I told him. He was 2,500 USCF.
Yeah. I remember that.
I had no idea.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. He quit OTB, I think, in 1999, but still enjoys it.
That's when I remember him, from the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's discuss some Nimzo-Indian, Ben. So I know you've been working.
Nimzo what? Oh, Nimzo-Indian.
Yeah. There's a great new course about it on Chessable that I recommend for you. So it's called.
Oh, great!
It's called Starting Out. And you tell the story in your intro video of your fond childhood memories of the Nimzo-Indian. Maybe you could begin by recounting that.
Yeah, currently in my chess career, the last 20 years, I'm not playing black in a Nimzo-Indian, although I have, but not as part of my regular repertoire. But when I was a kid, between ages I'm going to say 8 and 17, if I had black and you allowed me, I would play the Nimzo-Indian, and I would play a certain way with black, and I would get attacking positions, and I was lower rated, my opponents were lower rated. So those attacking positions, I was very successful, and I got to use some of that in the course, showing how black can whip up a big attack by playing certain methods. And it reminded me of my childhood when I had all those exciting games in slow chess and blitz chess where I was getting the same kind of attacks and having fun with that. So, I wanted to look at an opening that I played as a kid that I had a lot of fun with, that I could put a new perspective on, since I wasn't a theoretician when I was 9. So although like saying that is like a joke then, but now it's not a joke. Now theoreticians can be 9.
Yeah, for sure.
But not when I was 9. When I was 9, kids were bad at chess. And so now, like, learning a lot more theory and some more modern games and looking at all the world's top players have always played the Nimzo-Indian with black. There's probably like every world champion, every super grandmaster last 100 years has played the Nimzo-Indian with black, and sometimes as their main weapon against d4. So I wanted to show something that was good for everybody, that was sound, and something that I liked and that I had fond memories of. And that's why I made the course.
Yeah, and being the starting out series, shorter, slightly more beginner oriented, like it's 4 hours of videos, not like 50, you know. And what rating range would you say?
I think anywhere from beginner to about 1600 would be good. And sometimes when I suggest these ratings, people who are higher rated than the suggestion, they like the course also. So usually people from the low level say this is pretty hard. People at the high level say this is pretty easy. So I think if you're somewhere in the 1,000 to 1,400 range, it's the sweet spot. But if you like things that are educational, not necessarily for your rating range, you could be any rating and enjoy the course. But I don't want to make it too difficult for anybody. So even if you're a beginner and you know how the pieces move, I think you can enjoy the course.
Okay. Yeah. And I mentioned this with another guest I interviewed about like a starting out course. Like for me, if it's an opening I don't play, I like to start out with the basics, you know?
Right.
It's a good way. And then you can just start playing blitz and take it from there. Now, I did notice, so this course is, of course, in the Queen's Gambit complex, you know, after d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3 is one move, but you also often see knight f3, which isn't covered in your course. So do you have any recommendations, or are you going to be making more a course about the other options?
It's funny, the course came out today, and people have already asked me, but what do I do against the Trompowsky?
Yeah,
what
the
do I
London.
do against knight f3, like you asked? And even during the course, I was like, this course covers the Nimzo-Indian. If you're interested in other openings, there's other courses on Chessable. It's possible I'm going to make more courses in these lines, but we haven't decided yet. We're working, me and Chessable are working on that now, what the next course is
Still
going to be.
victory lapping this one.
Yeah, and there's also G3, like the Catalan.
Yeah.
So this course is focusing on the Nimzo-Indian. Of course, if you play any opening in chess with either color, you can't force it. Your opponent has to play along. And the Nimzo-Indian's pretty popular. It's pretty common. So I think if you play the Nimzo-Indian with black, you're going to face some Catalans, some knight f3s, and you're also going to face some Londons. But those are covered in other courses. Those are other openings. And I didn't talk about those openings in the course, except to say they can happen, but we're not covering that here. We're just covering the Nimzo-Indian. And of course, I don't want to stop other authors from getting people to buy their product. So if you're like, man, when I have black, I always lose to the London, then you should find a London course that helps you play with the black pieces. Although I suspect a lot of them are going to be for playing with the white pieces. And things of that nature, where there's so many courses on Chessable, you don't have to go to me to find every course on every opening. I do specific openings for a rating range that I think will be popular with the general public. And I think openings that happen a lot, like the Queen Pawn opening starting out with d4, the Sicilian course, and this is my third course on the Nimzo-Indian.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so you mentioned the Nimzo as one of your favorite childhood openings. What else did you love to play as a kid?
Oh, when I was black, I played Nimzo with black against d4, and against e4, I played the French defense. And I played the French defense from age 6 to 19 or so. So I was always playing the French defense. I have a lot of French defense games with black. With white, I basically played everything. And maybe I even leaned toward playing c4 on move 1, which doesn't make any sense for the way I play. And then somehow, as I got into adulthood, I started playing just only d4, which I think is a better choice for me. But yeah, the French defense, I think I liked even more than the Nimzo-Indian. I'm worried there's already too many French courses on Chessable, but maybe the way I played the French, maybe not the best. But one of the reasons I liked the French was I really liked this book on the Tal-Botvinnik World Championship match I had when I was a kid.
Jesse Kreis' favorite book. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some trench defenses from Botvinnik. So, as black. So maybe that's why I like the French, but somehow the French always spoke to me when I was a kid. And then when I was an adult, I decided I was getting mated too much and I stopped playing it.
I was going to say, you just liked bad bishops.
That's right.
Okay, well, we've got another listener question, Ben. This one is from Nahul Marisi. Thank you for supporting the pod, Nahul. He says, Ben Finegold produces a lot of high-quality YouTube videos, allegedly. And then he says, how can one gain skills by watching videos instead of merely acquiring knowledge?
Well, you can acquire knowledge from watching the videos, of course. Usually when you watch a video, you're trying to get a nugget or a tidbit from the video that you hadn't thought of before, that like opens your eyes to like a whole new world. And sometimes when I watch a video, somebody will say something and I'm like, I never thought of it that way. But yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And it opens my eyes as well. So just, enveloping yourself in chess content. If you like watching videos, if you can learn from them, that's one of the great ways of doing it, because you can always pause the video and come back later if you don't finish it, and you can rewatch the video. So videos are a good way to learn, and you always get a little knowledge somewhere that maybe you hadn't thought of in the past, and that can improve your whole game.
So basically, you can try out something like maybe spar against the engine or do a training game, especially if it's like an opening idea.
No, definitely. And as you said earlier, when you're learning something new, you can always try it out in blitz, which wasn't necessarily the case when I was a kid, because you couldn't play blitz online. So you'd have to wait to go to a blitz tournament or go to some local club. But now you can just learn an opening and play 100 blitz games online in a few days and not have your OTB rating affected, and learn the ins and outs of the opening without it costing you any rating points in a slow tournament. And videos are the same thing. You can watch different videos and learn different things and then try them out, not necessarily in a slow rated game, but just in some fun game. And even as you said, with playing your computer, and you can get better much more quickly than you could when we were kids and you had to do a lot of studying on your own and you didn't have a lot of time or the facility to practice what you preach. And now you can just play on many different sites. You can play with fake handles, and you can basically just play every opening now.
Yeah, the ability, I don't like playing engines generally, but the ability to be able to like tell it what to play against you is massive. I mean, it just, and obviously even beyond openings, if you want to practice converting advantages or whatever it may be. All right, Ben. So one last topic for you. I wanted to get some prompts. Of course, last time we saw each other was in Vegas. Vegas known for some gambling. Chess gambling stories. What are your, who was the most impressive chess hustler you've seen? What was the most epic match? I know you've seen a bunch.
The most impressive chess hustlers meet? No. I had a funny match. I was in Capella Grand before it was the famous tournament that it is now. And this was one of the first editions. And I was known when I was younger as being a good bullet player.
Oh man, you were really good.
and we had analog clocks, and the Belgians really thought I was good at 1 minute because I lived in Belgium.
And because you were good at 1 minute.
There was this Bulgarian grandmaster named Georgiev, who was also good at 1 minute. And he was giving French IMs 5 minutes to 1 and winning for money. And so the Belgian guys, my guys, and the Bulgarian guys, they said that I should play a match with that guy. And we'd pool all our money together, winner take it all. So I didn't put any money up because I didn't have any money. The Belgians got like $300 together. US, I mean, the translation from the Belgian francs or French
Right.
franc. And the Bulgarians did also. And we played a match, world championship style, first to get 6 wins. And we had an arbiter. And the arbiter was used. We needed an arbiter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the arbiter was like a FM from France, some kid. We had an analog clock, and during one of the games, the clock broke.
Oh, wow.
So even though I was losing, it was ruled that that game was annulled, and we play another game.
And this is
That game
1
wouldn't
minute
count
chess
at all.
on an analog clock, right?
Yeah, 1 minute, 1 minute each. Yeah. Anyway, I won 6-3. So the Belgian guys gave me half, and they kept half. So I got a free roll, basically, as we say.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were both really good at 1 minute. I'm sure we weren't world class like we thought we were, but we were plenty good. And we had, I want to say, 100 spectators watching our match.
Wow.
People were standing on top of each other to watch the 1 minute match.
So do you remember what kind of analog? So for younger listeners, the analog
clocks. I think it was
clocks,
a BHB. I think it was one of those small ones.
Oh God, those were the
Terrible.
worst. Yeah, these
Yeah, right,
these little
the worst.
plastic ones.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So for listeners, there's like a clock face basically, and a flag that when your clock goes past, hits the new hour mark, you run out. But basically, you have no idea how much time you have.
Right. Yeah, you're just playing fast and hope your flag doesn't fall.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I always was impressed that some people, some hustlers in particular, like they were really good at estimating how much time there was. But for me, it's like if I have less than 20 seconds, I have no idea, how much time I had. And
yeah, kids today don't have these problems.
No, they really
They're
don't.
like, I have 1.3 seconds.
Right, exactly.
Like, all right.
Yeah. And maybe even an increment to go with it. What about in St. Louis? And maybe some of these stories can't be told, but
my favorite St. Louis story by quite a bit is Alejandro Ramirez, who we shouldn't talk about on the pod, but was intoxicated, as everybody was but me. Somehow I hadn't had any alcohol, but this is like an after party.
Right.
We're at the chess club. He said, Ben, we've never played chess before. We'd never played a chess game. And we knew each other for like 10 years. So we played 1 minute, and I won every game. And we had backers. His backer was Grishuk. Nobody else would back him. So I won some money again, like free roll. But I won every game. And then MVL said, can I play you? And I'm like, well, you're better than me. What do you mean, can you play me? And then people started betting money. And this guy who's like a local hustler, he said, I'll get any amount of money on Ben. Who wants to bet on MVL? And I said, yeah, don't do that. He said, no, you always win. I said, yeah, I'm not going to beat MVL at 1 minute. And he said, yeah, I don't care. I'm betting on you. He took all bets. Didn't care how much they were. So he had a few hundred on the line. So first game, I crushed MVL. I just took all his pieces and mated him and won on time, and ridiculous. Okay, then he won the next 4 games. And we're playing first to get 5 points. Okay, so I'm down 4-1. The next game, I win on time with 1 second left in a lost position. The next game, I win on time with 1 second left in a lost position. So now it's 4-3. And the crowd's going crazy. Everybody's watching. All the GMs are watching. And unfortunately, I lost the last game, so I lost 5-3. But there was a lot of screaming going on when I would win these games with 1 second left. People were getting excited because probably they had too much to drink. But that was one of the greatest moments of my chess career, was playing MVL 1 minute with people betting money on me.
Yeah.
I told them, don't do that.
And you held your own at least.
And there was when Grishuk said he would bet on Alejandro, Aviv said, have you seen Ben play 1 minute before? And Grishuk said, no. And Aviv said, well, you're going to see now. And Grishuk didn't like that. And then when I was up in the match, and the match hadn't ended yet, Grishuk was already paying people. He already gave up.
Right. Yeah. And so you've described two matches where you had a free roll, maybe more so in your younger days. Would you gamble with your own money in matches?
Yeah, I could, but it's weird to play chess for money when you're playing like a blitz game, because everybody knows how good everybody is.
Yeah.
So who's going to bet on somebody that And one thing I did see that wasn't me, and I was watching it, was Magnus was playing Lawrence Trent, and they had discussed a few months prior. Magnus said, I could spot you a rook in 5 minutes to Lawrence Trent, and I would get about 4 out of 10. And so Lawrence said, no, you won't get 4 out of 10. It's probably be a rook. So anyway, they were about to play the match, and Lawrence was playing practice games with MVL at rook odds. Mm-hmm. Lawrence won every game. It's like 5-0. So he's like, okay. And he played Magnus, and after 9 games, Magnus had 4 and Trent had 5, and they stopped. So, and they were playing for $1,000.
Wow.
So playing for $1,000, Magnus can spot Lawrence Trent a rook and get about 50%.
And he's so good. That's one thing that constantly...
And Lawrence Trent's really good at blitz chess. He's a good blitz player.
Yeah. No, and Magnus is very good at like calibrating exactly how good he is and being very objective. Like how could you know exactly that you have a 40% expectation, but somehow I feel like he's always right on the mark.
I have a funny story about this from before I was born.
Okay.
So in Michigan, when my dad played Fischer, this is the tournament where Fischer famously fell asleep against Bisgeier. And I know why he fell asleep. The reason he fell asleep is he was up all night playing blitz with Norbert Leopoldi, who was about 2250. And Leopoldi and Fischer played 5-minute rook odds. And I heard a story, Fischer won 19.5 out of 20 against a master spotting him a rook at blitz. And Wes Berger, my good friend, said, no, that's not what happened. I was there and I watched it. And I said, what happened? And he said, Fischer won 20-0. Huh. It wasn't 19.5, it was 20-0. Can you imagine beating a 2200 player every single game at rook odds? Wow. Yeah, Fischer was good at blitz.
Amazing.
And they were playing for a lot of money. And when it ended, supposedly Norbert owed Fischer like 3,000, which in 1963 is like 10 billion.
Yeah, exactly.
And he gave Fischer like $100 and said, that's enough for you, kid.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's always a risk of gambling. You got to make counterparty risk. You got to make sure you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
All right. Last topic, Ben. So for Perpetual Chess listeners, I'll be putting together a World Championship preview pod that's probably coming out the week after this. But since we have Ben here, might as well get your hot takes. Can Ding pull it together?
No.
Yeah, I feel like everyone, unfortunately, there's a consensus about.
Gukesh is playing great. Ding's playing terrible. The truth hurts.
Yeah. I did just
probably if they both played their best, Gukesh probably still win. Gukesh probably just better than Ding now.
Yeah.
But Ding can't seem to pull it together, as you said.
Yeah, that's a concern too. Peak Ding was amazing, but Gukesh is like a rocket ship ascending.
I was at the candidates in Toronto also, so I saw Gukesh in person.
Mm-hmm.
It was impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad but true. I just retweeted Perelstein had seen a Magnus quote somewhere where he said maybe if Ding can get a couple draws early on and like feel like he's psychologically resilient, maybe he can then play better in the second half of the match. But as you say, it's just Gukesh is just in such good form. Do you think there's any chance like the pressure would get to Gukesh?
No, I don't think so. I mean, being very young and playing in the candidates, that was tremendous pressure, and he just handled it with such ease.
Yeah. I mean, the way he bounced back from that loss to Firouzja.
And the Olympiad.
Yeah.
Man, he had a great Olympiad.
Yeah, it's tough. I did see one betting market that I think had Gukesh around 75%. So it sounds like you would bet Gukesh at that price.
Probably, if I had to. If I had to make a bet, probably, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a feeling that's going to be the theme of my interviews next week as well. But maybe we'll be proven wrong. And if not, youngest world champion in history is an amazing thing.
Yep.
All right, Ben, anything else before we say goodbye for this time?
Yeah, go Chessable. Go Chessable. And I'm co-authoring another Chessable course with somebody that'll come out early next year. And I'm also going to start another Chessable course next week. So
cool. And
look for more Chessable courses for me. and more visits to your podcast.
Okay, excellent. And in the meantime, starting out, Nimzo-Indian, available now. Probably will have gone off sale right when this pod comes out. But if you needed the sale, you can wait for the next one. And of course, there's a money back guarantee for 30 days if you check it out and don't like it. I don't know how that would happen though.
It could happen.
All right. Well, thanks as always, Ben. And as you say, until next time.
Okay. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me.